Welcome to Warehouse and Operations as a Career. I'm Marty, and today I thought we'd talk a little about the unloading or lumper positions. We've been catching up on some questions and topic suggestions over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and we've seen a lot of sharing with them, so I thought we'd go over this one here again. I saw a question it was actually on a job board about an open position in the parts warehouse, and a young lady asked exactly what an unloader had to do and did it involve using a forklift. Well, I started to just refer her to episodes 6, 51, 61, and even 63. We mentioned the opportunities of unloading or lumping in each one of them. But given our recent themes, I thought maybe it'd be nice to approach it in more of a job description way. It's actually kind of funny that this question came up this week. On the last episode, I mentioned that the driver-helper position ranked as number 1 or 2 regarding my all-time favorite get your foot in the door or getting started in the warehousing fields. Now, in my humble opinion, unloading is the absolute shortcut to a career in warehousing. For those of us that's never had a warehouse position in a large distribution center, it can be our entrance into a very successful career. Oh, and that brings up a comment I received a couple of weeks back. A listener felt that I mentioned the words large centers and corporate companies quite a bit. Did I feel that's the direction that she should be seeking employment with? You know, the corporate channel just worked out great for me. I worked for 3 national companies and acquired all my experiences through them, really. I was fortunate to wrap up my last 25 working years with the same facility. Oh, I was on several of their different teams, like the contingency team, the move teams, etc., but I was really housed out of the same OpCo. But honestly, as far as gaining experience, say right out of high school or if you're changing careers, I think working with staffing agencies or independent, family-owned facilities can give us all the operational and equipment experiences and maybe much more of that experience much quicker than we'll receive those promotions at the large centers or in that corporate setting. I now work with both worlds, really, staffing and smaller organizations, and I see those career opportunities every day. That's the reason I love doing what I do. So with all that being said, let's look at the position of unloader or lumper. Maybe we should even think of them as 2 different positions. Okay, let's look at the unloader position. With employees wearing so many different hats and having additional duties that come along with just about every task, I've seen the responsibilities grow with this position. As an unloader, of course, we're going to arrive for work early. I've always liked to get to work at least 15 minutes early, but 10 minutes will really work for us. The important thing with any job is not to be late. We'll be punched in, have all of our PPEs on, and be at our gathering point for our pre-shift or startup meeting and be on time. Now, as an unloader, we'll be unloading trailers and containers, maybe even rail cars. We're going to have some sort of a schedule sheet it's going to tell us what the loads, the vendors, and the products are that's going to be coming in and how we'll need to break them down and how many pallets we'll end up with. Reading those breakdown sheets is where a little responsibility comes into play. It'll be our job to make sure we have separated all the different items, the colors or sizes, the different products in other words, and we sized the pallets correctly. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the freight receiver position and how they would be verifying what the unloaders actually did. As unloaders, we have to identify, separate, and prepare the pallets for storage and selection. We'll stack the items using the information on our schedule or breakdown sheets with the correct tie and high. Remember that tie and high number represents how many cases are on a layer or the tie and how many layers we'll put on a pallet or the high. After we finish stacking a pallet, it's always a good idea to run a strip of tape around the top layer. Or maybe wrap the entire pallet with shrink wrap so it doesn't come apart during transport to the slot, or maybe lean or fall when it's placed up in the reserve slot. As an unloader, our last step may be to place the pallet in a staging area for the receiver to accept the load into our WMS or warehouse management system. at which point it becomes a part of our company's inventory. Let's go back to all those hats employees are wearing these days. If we're working in a lower volume warehouse, it could be our responsibility to be that receiver. And we'll be the ones that's actually adding the PO to our inventory. We could even be the pallet runner and the forklift driver too. You know, I love facilities with these lower volumes. We'll get so much more experience there and a lot quicker. I really enjoy staffing companies for the very same reason. If we have a plan, see how I threw that in there again? If we have a plan, we can lead our recruiter in the direction that we want to go. We may be able to grab a short-term assignment as an unloader, get them to place us somewhere that utilizes pallet runners that'll train us on the equipment, put in a little time doing that, and then get our bosses to teach us to use the forklift. Now, in initiating such a plan, please remember our first order of safety, which is to never get on any kind of powered industrial equipment unless we've been trained on and certified to be on it. You know, with a year's worth of experience like that, and then we can go and apply with any company we'd like to work at, and we'll be seriously considered for the job. I mentioned lumping a few minutes ago. Lumping is another term for unloader. You know, lumping is a term that used to be used when over-the-road drivers would hire someone from the street to unload or lump the cases off of his or her trailer for them. There's actually third-party companies that hire out for that task in today's world. With much stricter OSHA regulations and insurance demands, drivers and companies can't just pick up anyone off the streets and pay them to unload their trailers anymore. Which brings us to another kind of unloading or lumping. I consider this just as skilled a position as we talked about earlier. It's just we won't have to do the receiving and the put away usually. Our task is just to unload the trailers and containers, properly stack the pallets, wrap them up tight, and stage them in a specified location. Now, both types of unloaders have pretty much the same responsibilities all in all. These positions are still referred to by many as general labor positions, but I honestly consider them to be a skilled position. Although, yes, they're a great first position in warehousing, there's a lot to learn, and we'll have the responsibility of reading the schedule sheets and the breakdown reports, separating the product and stacking the products properly on good wood or pallets, wrapping them and getting them to the receivers as instructed or up into the rack safely. As for the pay rates for these type of positions, what I see at the lower volume facilities, where we may have to be the unloader, the receiver, and the put-away person, it's usually paid by the hour. Since we're doing several tasks, it'll probably not be a productivity job, so it's hard to measure the individual components. There's so many different tasks to be completed. Now, at those places where we're only doing the unloading or lumping task, I find that piece pay or pool pay programs are really the norm. And that's really a plus for us as unloaders. The more freight we move individually, the more we earn for ourselves. Now, I'll go ahead and admit, unloading is my favorite get a foot in the industry position. It's just easy to get a little self-education and learn about every other warehouse task around us. Well, that's kind of the ins and outs of unloading and lumping. I hope I answered a couple of your questions, and if you'd like another answer or two, please don't hesitate to shoot us an email to host@warehouseandoperationsasacareer.com, and I'll find someone with the answer for us. And don't forget that our listener groups are pretty helpful and quick with an answer over on our Facebook and Twitter feeds, where WAOC can be found 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, using that little @ WHSEANDOPS. And I gotta say, we'd appreciate a quick like or a follow if you should be so inclined. I'm having a lot of fun over in the Facebook group, Warehouse Equipment Operators Community, and I'd love to run into you over there. Until next week, look around. What's your next step in your plan? Go out there and achieve your goal, and please remember to be safe doing it.